Thank you for inviting me back. I am grateful for your presence in this community. I'm especially grateful for your mission of inspiring and empowering community. And I am intrigued by your value statement of transforming the spirit through relationships of respect, compassion, and justice. I'm intrigued because in the Christian tradition, which I am immersed in, we usually ask or hope or pray to be transformed by the Spirit. So this idea of transforming the Spirit, I just find it intriguing. The fact that we can be responsible for and capable of transforming the Spirit, which surrounds us and connects us and moves with us and through us. I'm intrigued by the idea that this process of transforming, because of our relationships, it just resonates with something I've been pondering recently. And that is the power of the relationship that we refer to as friendship. So I want to begin with two ancient readings about relationships which are found in the First or the Old Testament of the Bible. And the first reading is part of the second creation story. Yahweh has just created the first earth creature, Adama, sometimes referred to as mud man. And Yahweh says, "It is not good for the earth creature to be alone. I will make a fitting companion." The second reading comes from Ecclesiastes, which is a book of wisdom. Chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. It is better to have a partner to go through. It is better to have a partner than go it alone. Share the work, share the wealth, and if one falls down, the other helps. But if there's no one to help, tough. Two in bed warm each other, alone you shiver. By yourself you're unprotected. With a friend, you can face the worst. Those readings, in my opinion, affirm that relationships, companionships, and friendships are essential to living a life that is whole and holy. I was raised on a farm in northern Indiana, and I was raised to work hard, to be responsible, and be independent. When I entered the workforce as a teenager, one of the first lessons I remember being told or taught, no one is indispensable. Everybody's replaceable. In my mid-20s, I joined the Christian church, where I was taught that my role in life was to follow Jesus, to watch my own behavior, to confess my sins, and to be a servant. Today, I question all of those conventional wisdom, and that makes me difficult, and that makes me dangerous. When I have questions, I tend to address them by wandering around and wondering, thinking and pondering. So one of the things I've been wondering about as I've wandered around is there's such a thing as the theology of friendship in the Christian tradition. And if there's not a theology of friendship, why not? Now that may be like heavy-duty clergy talk. So let me just rephrase it. I've been wondering about the power of friendships. I've been wondering if perhaps friendship is a superpower. And if it is, does that make it dangerous? Definitely not difficult, but is it dangerous? And since I have questions, let me ask you a question. Am I safe in assuming that everyone here is familiar with the term or the concept of friendship? Am I safe in assuming that everyone has experienced friendship? And has everyone here at one time or another had a friend and been a friend? Then how do you define it? What's the definition of friendship? What is your definition of friendship? Especially given it has so many layers to it and so much nuance. I don't know about you, but I've had best friends, casual friends, lifelong friends, friends that used to be friends. You barely don't have any of that, right? Friends for a season, friends for life. But I find defining friendship very, very challenging. Which is kind of surprising since it is a shared human experience. So I invite you during this next week just to ponder that. What is you're going to be wondering and wandering like I am. What's your definition of friendship? Putting it into words, at least for me, I have found difficult. Sister Joan Chittister says, friendship colors the air we breathe. I think that's beautiful. Anyway, one of the reasons I've been wandering around and wondering about friendship is because of something I read in the Bible, and it's in a passage from the Gospel or the Good News of John, which I probably have read 100, maybe 1,000 times before, but this time when I read it, I heard something different. It's part of the Jesus story. It's an event or a lesson, which, according to the authors of John's Gospel, happened towards the end of Jesus' life. Jesus was speaking to his disciples and everyone who was willing to listen, and he says, I want you to do two things. I want you to be people of love, and I want you to be friends. Here's how the passage is written in the Common English translation of the Bible. This is my commandment. Love each other just as I have loved you. No one has greater love than to lay his life down for a friend. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I don't call you servants any longer. I call you friends. And it was that shift from servanthood to friendship which really stood out to me, which I heard so differently. You know what that shift from servanthood to friendship does? It messes with the power dynamics. And messing with the power dynamics is the MO of the Jesus that I know. Always mixing things up. And even if you mess with power dynamics, you're headed for trouble. Shifting the power in our culture, probably in the world, is difficult and it's dangerous. So that shift in power dynamics got me wondering, why haven't I been taught more about that in the church? Why has the focus of the church, which I've been part of, your experience may have been different, but the focus of the church that I've been part of has been on servanthood. Always on servanthood. That led me to wonder how the Christian church might be different if it were modeled on friendship, not servanthood. And given that our nation is often described as a Christian nation, how might our nation be different if we're modeled on friendship, not servanthood or servitude? Now, you may not agree with me, but it seems to me that one of the American dreams is having someone to serve us. Maids, lawn care, pools, nails, the list goes on and on. Think of all the jobs that are rooted in serving. Think of all the jobs where people are described as servers. In fact, we have an entire sector, the largest sector, I believe, is the service industry. We also have this large group of people who are our age, who used to fill the churches. And they were taught that the greatest thing was being servants. The greatest thing anyone could do was be a servant. And that's the way I was taught to look at myself, and it was the way I was taught to look at you. And then here comes this disruptive Jesus who says, you're not servants, you're friends. I don't think I've ever heard one single message preached on that verse. I've heard a lot about love one another. It's the greatest commandment. And then we don't go on and read the next sentence. According to Jesus, our relationships are to be rooted in friendship. And I believe if we did that, we would live into your value statement of transforming the spirit. Now, my ponderings didn't stop there. I began to think about the friendships of Jesus and how they were an issue right from the beginning of his story. I don't know how familiar you are with the Jesus story. This is the Donna version. It's not difficult, but it may be dangerous. As I understand it, Jesus began his ministry in his early 30s when he officially became a religious leader. In those very first stories, guess what he was doing? Anybody know? Making friends, going to parties, going to weddings, hanging out, eating and drinking. His friends started bringing their friends. And pretty soon, there was a whole new group of friends, right? They were sitting around the tables. They were telling stories that resulted in healing. They were breaking bread, drinking wine, and the people just kept coming. Pretty soon, there was a huge crowd. Who follows crowds? The authorities. The authorities have a way of following a crowd, then and now. And the authorities are people who have been granted power. So here they come, the authorities come, checking out the crowd that's sitting with Jesus, and they describe it as a mob. Then they start pointing fingers and making accusations. Look at what Jesus is doing. Look who Jesus is friends with. That's the first accusation that was made against him. Jesus is a friend of sinners and tax collectors. And from there, it escalated. It went from finger pointing and accusations to crucifixion. And it started with friendship. It began when Jesus took down those barriers between us and them. It began when people came together as friends. And the story I just told you is found in 3 of the 4 Gospels, basically in that form. The 4th Gospel, which we read from today, the Good News of John, tells the same story but in a different way. In John's Gospel, it's not so much something Jesus does as it is something Jesus says. From this point forward, you're not servants. From this point forward, you're friends. Friendship, it seems to me, really does transform the spirit. Friendship is powerful. Maybe even dangerous. And maybe that's why the Christian church doesn't talk much about it. And maybe that's why so many people in the Christian nation keep us divided. Friendship is powerful. In fact, I would go so far as to say friendship is a superpower. And here's the miraculous part. Because, you know, there's always a miracle in the Jesus story. Every single one of us can be a friend. Every one of us can do it. Every single one of us can change the world, transform the spirit. Every person here can be a friend, and every single person in the world needs a friend. Friends are essential. Friends are incredibly valuable. If you are a friend with just one person, you are vital. You are irreplaceable. Friendship is not difficult, but it is dangerous because it does mess with the power structure. So let's go out into the world. Let's go to all the nations and let's make friends.